A brand new Tesla Model 3 will cost you €42,000 just for the basic version. In order to be able to afford it, you would need to have an income before tax of €120,000. Here's why. The rule of thumb is that a car should never cost you more than 35% of your gross income. Using that rule, we can reverse engineer the cost of the Tesla Model 3 to arrive at an affordable income of €120,000. But that's actually the best case scenario. You see, committing 35% of your gross income to a car is a lot, and for most people, a figure in the range of 15 to 25% is going to be more sensible. Using those figures, you'd be looking at a gross income in the range of 168 and 280,000 euros just to be able to afford the most basic Tesla Model 3. If that comes as a surprise, you're not alone. Figuring out how much car you can afford is crucially important to your financial well-being, yet it's not something that we humans are good at, given that most people are driving around in cars that they can't afford. To make matters more difficult, while the 35% rule is useful as a guideline, it doesn't give us the full picture of what's actually affordable. For example, with a gross income of €50,000, the 35% rule would dictate that you could afford a car that's worth €17,500. That'd be €12,500 using 25% or €7,500 using 15%. There aren't many Teslas available in that price range. However, whether or not that level of affordability is even true for you will depend on your savings, your total monthly expenditure, the tax rate that you pay on your income, and many other cost factors that will vary from person to person. That's the limitation of the 35% rule. It doesn't consider the financial position that you're already in. That said, it is useful for establishing a price ceiling for your car, and you can work downwards from that number to figure out what's truly affordable. A key question to answer is whether you're going to be paying for the car in full with your own money, or whether you'll be borrowing some or all of the purchase price. Generally speaking, you should try to purchase your car with cash and avoid borrowing. The only exception to this is if you can secure a low interest rate on your car loan and you commit to investing the money that you saved by borrowing. The logic here is that if you can earn a percentage return on your money through investing that's greater than the interest rate that you're paying on your loan, then it's technically cheaper to borrow. For example, say that you wanted to purchase the Tesla Model 3 for €42,000 and that you had the capacity to purchase the car using your own money, but you knew that you could secure a car loan at a 3% interest rate. Assuming an inflation rate of 2%, the real interest rate on the car loan would be 1%. Considering that the average annual return of the S&P 500 after taxes and inflation is in the region of 5%, your €42,000, if invested, would earn a real return after taxes that's 4 percentage points higher based on historical averages than the real interest rate that you're paying on your loan. So in that case, it might make sense to borrow provided you have the capacity to meet the loan repayments after investing your cash. But again, all of this is predicated on you actually investing the money and earning an after-tax real investment return that's greater than your real loan interest rate. If you borrow for the sake of borrowing and don't make any compensating investments, then you're spending needless additional money. Given that interest rates globally are at levels not seen for over 10 years, it's unlikely that you'll be able to secure a loan interest rate that's low enough to make optional borrowing worthwhile. Therefore, when rates are high, it's usually best to buy your car with cash if possible. If you don't have enough money saved up to purchase the car outright, you can either continue saving, lower your price range, or borrow if you really need to. If you are going to borrow in a high rate environment, there are 3 things that you must do. Number 1, try to put down as much of your own money as possible. This will reduce the amount that you need to borrow, thus reducing the amount of interest that you'll pay on top of the borrowed amount. Number 2, pay back the loan over 2 to 3 years. Shorter loan terms will result in a higher monthly payment, but will reduce the total amount of interest that you pay over the life of the loan. For example, if you purchase a car for €10,000 with €4,000 down and you borrow the remaining €6,000 at an 8.95% interest rate, over 3 years you'd pay just over €830 in interest and your monthly repayment will be €189.74. If you instead repay over 2 years, your monthly repayment increases to €273.10, but your total interest paid falls to just over €554, a reduction of 33%. It is tempting to reduce your monthly repayment, but just know that doing so comes at a cost. Do not fall into the trap of making your car purchase artificially affordable by repaying your loan over longer loan periods. If in the previous example you chose to repay your loan over 5 years, your monthly repayment would only be €123.42, which at face value seems like the most affordable option. However, in reality, by the time you've paid off your loan, you'll have paid a whopping €1,405 worth of interest, nearly double what you would have paid over 3 years and nearly triple what you would have paid over 2 years. And number 3, make sure to shop around for the best interest rate. Pretty self-explanatory, the lower the interest rate on the loan, the less interest you'll pay. Loan repayments aren't the only cost associated with owning a car, as you're no doubt aware. Other costs include taxes, insurance, maintenance and repairs, fuel, and other additional costs that vary depending on where in the world you're purchasing a car. All of these costs need to be accounted for when assessing the affordability of a car. And yes, there is a rule of thumb to go by. It's said that your total monthly car payment, including all of the costs we just mentioned, should not exceed 10% of your monthly gross income. For any costs that are incurred just once per year, you simply divide by 12 to convert this into a monthly value. For unexpected costs like maintenance and repairs, it's best to estimate a single annual amount and divide by 12 to convert this into a monthly value. To give you an idea, the average monthly cost of car ownership in the US in 2022 was $894. We can reverse engineer this to work out that a gross income of $107,280 is required to support the average monthly cost of car ownership in the States. Now granted, many of these estimates include the value of depreciation, which isn't a real monthly cost, but rather is a representation of the steady decline in your car's value over time. This will become a real cost whenever you sell or trade in your car in the future, but for now, you're better off creating your own monthly cost estimate based on the real cash outflows that you'll experience each month as a result of car ownership. To figure out how much of a monthly car payment you can afford, simply take 10% of your gross income and divide by 12. For example, a gross income of €50,000 could afford a monthly car payment of €416.67 under the rule of thumb. But remember, this has its limitations because it doesn't consider the financial position that you're already in. €416 might be totally unaffordable for someone on a €50,000 salary if they're already paying high expenses for rent or mortgage payments, childcare costs, personal loan repayments, insurance premiums, and any of the other costs that an individual may incur. So is buying an expensive new car like the Tesla Model 3 even worth it? Well, from a depreciation perspective, the Tesla Model 3 has actually been found to be quite good. Some sources note that the car is retaining nearly 90% of its value after 3 years and can be expected to maintain 64% of its value after 5 years. However, if we're talking about expensive new cars in general, unless cars are your thing, there's no real reason to be buying them, mainly because statistically, you can't afford it. The average price of a new car is in the region of €35,000, which, depending on your definition of affordable, would require a gross income of between €100,000 and €233,000. Clearly, average incomes aren't going to support the purchase of an expensive new vehicle. But even outside of affordability, depreciation makes purchasing a new vehicle a financial nightmare. Depending on the make and model of the car you're buying, it can lose 20% or more of its original value within the first 12 months. After 5 years, you could be looking at a loss of up to 60% of its original value, or even more in certain cases. That means that the average new car purchased for €35,000 could be worth just €14,000 in 5 years' time. That's a loss of €21,000. A car is not an investment. You're not purchasing it with the anticipation of making money. It is an asset, but it's one which loses value year over year and requires continuous financial investment to maintain. So here's what you should do instead. Firstly, set your eyes on used vehicles. By buying a second-hand car, you can benefit from the depreciation that the car has already experienced between the point it was first purchased and now. Buying a car that's at least 5 years old can result in the worst of the depreciation and value being avoided, which can save you thousands. When looking for such a car, set your price range between 15 and 25% of your gross income. You can do 35% if you wish, but just be aware that that's reaching into the upper limits of affordability. Secondly, buy the car with your own money if possible. If you can secure a low enough interest rate, then optional borrowing might make sense, provided you commit to investing your money. If you must borrow, then remember a large deposit, a short loan term, and a competitive interest rate are key. key. Once you know how you're going to pay for the car, you then need to factor in costs such as insurance, taxes, fuel, and repairs. Ideally, your total monthly car payment will not exceed 10% of your monthly gross income. If it does, then the car may not be affordable, but this will need to be considered in the context of your current and likely future financial situation. Finally, don't underestimate the value of reliability. Spending the extra time looking up consumer reports on the reliability of certain makes and models can pay huge dividends, as you'll be made aware of any red flags that might exist. Figuring out if there are any common issues associated with a given car, how often and or how likely it is that those issues will arise, and the cost of resolving those issues is crucially important. Otherwise, you run the risk of being hit with large recurring bills for maintenance and repairs. Factors such as the fuel efficiency of the car should also be considered. It is a good idea to have a qualified, independent third party perform an inspection of the car that you're looking to buy in order to assess its true condition before purchase. What you're trying to do is strike a balance between the affordability of the purchase price and the affordability of the monthly car payment. Or if you want to avoid all of that, just buy a Toyota.